Hey guys, we're on to training 14, take control of your career. So if you don't know me, I'm Meredith Holly. I'm a lawyer, power dynamics facilitator, and best-selling author. And I help employees stop sexual harassment without quitting their jobs. And a lot of people who come to me are in a space where they're like, I had this career goal. I was even talking to someone today who just called to ask for help, and she was saying that she's an attorney, and she has gone into do work in offices and then not been respected in the offices. And she couldn't decide. Her question was, is this normal? Like, I can't figure out if this is just how things are or if something could be different. So a lot of times I talk to people who say, I should have been considered for this promotion, but I wasn't. And I don't know what's happening that I'm not achieving what I want to be achieving in my career. And so this is a little tool that I am using to sort of help you diagnose exactly why you haven't achieved what you want and help you take control and know whether you have control over your career or whether somebody else does. I believe that you could have the exact income that you want tomorrow. And so the reason that we don't have results that we want is because of what we believe. And a lot of times I remember when I first heard this, I was like, no, it's not, that's not true. The reason I don't have the results I want is because of my boss. Like, that's really what it is. But I have seen over and over again how as I shift what I expect from my environment shifts also. So a lot of times we think that our career is happening to us, and this doesn't let us make shifts. If we believe that our career is happening to us, there's nothing that we can do, right? And that would be terrible news. And so all of this is good news. It's not to say you're doing anything wrong, right? At the point that of what you're doing right now, is just to say that there's more that is possible. So I was talking to a client the other day, and she was just saying, I'm just not qualified to start my business yet. I'm just not qualified. And she just said it as though it's just an observation that she just has seen in the world, and she just knows that she's not qualified, right? And I was talking to another client today where one of her goals is making more friends. She has this really great relationship with her husband, and she feels like she wants to add friendships to her life, but she notices that she's not. And she was sharing with me that she just believed that she should make friends. She didn't even necessarily want to make friends. She just believed that she should. And that's the only reason she set it as one of her goals. And so obviously, as we looked at it, if she's believing that other people expect her to make friends and she has to do it, it sounds terrible, and she's not going to do it, right? So when she could question that and say, why does she really want to make friends? Does she really want to make friends? And why? What would that add? It could kind of shift her perspective to help her take action. The same with my client who just was saying, I'm not qualified, right? And when we were able to look at it, what does it even mean to be qualified enough to help people, right? She gets to decide. Each of us gets to decide. But a lot of times what happens is we think that everything that's happening in our environment is just happening and that we're just making observations. So it's not until we can really question that and take a look at what we're believing now that's creating the results we have now that we can even make a shift, right? So the tool that I want to teach you is called Emotional Mens Rea. So this comes from the legal term mens rea. It's Latin for the guilty mind. And I kind of like using this concept because I think once we realize that our thoughts are creating all of our results, it feels like we have a guilty mind. Like, what? Why? Why are we choosing what we're choosing if it's not getting us the results that we want? So there are 4 types of mens rea in the law. There's negligence, recklessness, knowingly, and intentionally. And so I want to watch, and these structures are how we decide how guilty a person is of a crime, for example. So I want to shift this a little bit, but use this structure to help you see where you are in terms of taking control over your career. All of them are good news, right? There's no bad step. This is just the process by which we take more control. And you want to know where you are before you can take action to change it, right? And so where you are now is not bad. Like 90% of what you're already doing is working based on the life that you have. But then if you want to set a goal and you want to achieve it, if you want to take more control over your career and you're not sure why you're not getting the results you want, this is the process by which to take more control and to diagnose what the issue is. Okay, so it's a process of shifting towards more control. So the first step is negligence. This is the step where we are not getting the result that we want and we're thinking it's outside of our control. So if you're in a process where you think, no, it's my external environment that is creating my results, this is the negligence place in the career. There are many things that we can't control in our environment, right? But there's always something that we can take control over. So if our brains are only identifying the places where we don't have control, then they're in a negligent place, right? They're not identifying where we do have control, and there are always places where we do have control. So then after we're through the negligence step, we go to recklessness. This is the place where, so recklessness is like when you know something's dangerous, but you do it anyway, right? Negligence is like when you kind of let a danger happen, but you're not really active in it. This is sort of how it works in the law. So these steps are similar to how we treat our career, right? So negligence in how you treat your career is when you think that it is outside of your control, but you know that you aren't getting the results that you want. So it's taking no action, basically. Recklessness, in terms of this structure of how we want to think of your emotional mens rea, is when you know you can make a shift, but you're still inside of an old habit and it feels weird that it's still coming up. Like you can see what a shift would look like, but you're not yet in that place, right? You're not in the place where the shift is natural. And this is okay. This is a natural part. Like this is all part of the process of taking control over a goal or over an area of your career. The third step is knowingly. If you're in a place of being knowing over your career, you know what the belief is that you've had that creates the result you want, and you understand that that belief is the problem. It no longer seems like your external environment is the problem. You can see that the belief is the problem. And then the final step is intentionally. So when you're intentional about your career, you choose your way forward. You can see the new belief and you can stand in the new belief of what is going to create the result you want. So for those of us who work as coaches, we can see our clients go through this process, right? When any client comes to us, when my client came to me and said, I'm just not qualified, she didn't think that she was making a choice, right? She just thought she was observing reality, that she was not qualified. But as we questioned that thought, she could then see that that thought itself was what is not creating her business, right? And it's not just an observation, it's a choice. So we all have a guilty mind, right? We all have mens rea. And what that means is that our mind is guilty of creating the results that we have in our life, right? When we think that there's anything in our environment that's outside of our control, anything in our experience that's outside of our control, we the shift we can make is that the impact we make is always the piece that's inside of our control, right? So when we're in the negligence place, of believing that there's something in our environment outside of our control, we have to come back to ourselves and go through this process of finding out what is inside of our control, identifying the thinking error that's keeping us stuck in an old pattern, creating awareness, knowingness around what the belief is that creates the result we have, and then we can become intentional about creating what we want. So in a dangerous work environment, what I often see as this process is that an employee believes that there's nothing they can do to make their environment safe. And when we have that belief that there's nothing I can do to make my environment safe, we're allowing ourselves to be in a dangerous environment, right? The impact that we can make is always what we choose to believe about ourselves, how we treat ourselves, what we expect for ourselves, and how much respect we give ourselves, right? And so when we believe that there's nothing we can do to change our unsafe work environment, that is treating us with negligence. And there's always a shift that we can make towards what is something I can do. There's one thing I can do. It's not a shift of like believing all of a sudden that your work environment is safe, but just believing there's something I can do. There's one step I can take to make myself more safe, and I owe that to myself. It's like questioning the idea of what we deserve, questioning the idea of what we expect. How do we improve that? And us improving that improves our entire environment. So if you guys know anybody who's struggling at work, send them our way, ask any questions. I'm happy to answer. If you have other questions about how to deal with workplace issues, be sure to ask them. I'm happy to respond, and thanks for listening.